Thanks for everybody for coming out tonight. I appreciate it. My name is Brad Treat. I'll do a quick introduction about who we are, why we do this, and those sorts of things. So this is my agenda tonight. I'll be talking to customers. So the type of entrepreneurship we teach and we advise is very customer-centric, and we'll go into the tactics of what that actually means. How do I find out what my customers want? And then we'll talk about some next steps. And we close every one of these sessions with the open mic. So the open mic is your chance to introduce yourself or your business or your idea to the group. So we think of it as a nice kickoff for the networking. And you can come up here and say whatever you want to the group. I'm looking for a job, I got a great idea. Here's some names for my business, what do you think? Come and taste my hot sauce, we've had that one. So it can be pretty broad. So be thinking about, as I'm talking, hey, what would I like to speak to the group about? And then this will be your chance to do it. And you see it as an opportunity for you all to get to know each other. So a little bit about the Southern Tier Startup Alliance. So we are an organization that we're the government. So we're a relatively new organization that was put together based on peer-reviewed research that is around job creation. So the data shows that the net new job growth comes from the new companies, and one of the most effective ways of supporting the new companies is by giving them experienced and reliable mentorship. And so we're an organization of experienced mentors. I'll tell you a little bit about my background, but the reason we do this is job creation. So one of the things I will tell you about, at no point will I ever ask any of y'all for money. So that's, you can relax there. This is not a sales pitch. We're here to help. One of the things that we do ask for is data. So we do like to know how well we're doing. One of the measures, is people who show up to these things. So not only do I ask that you sign up for the sign-in sheet to get your email on the email, but if we already have your email, it helps us to just put your name on there so we can show people are coming to these events. The government is very interested in the data of what we're doing and what our effectiveness is. In our first full year of operation, we engaged with over 350 entrepreneurs throughout the Southern Tier region. This is the Southern Tier region. And those companies raised over $10 million and created 100 new jobs. And that was in our first full year. So we're seeing some effects. And then you say, well, why would the government do something like this? Once again, going back to the peer-reviewed research, the state of Maryland has been doing programs like ours for a while. And they showed over a trailing 10-year period, for every dollar the state invested in programs like ours, they received $36 back. And they received in the form of creating new jobs that then, of course, pay taxes, and the companies pay taxes, and there's a nice downhill stream. So if you're wondering, what is my government doing to create new jobs? We're an example of a model that we think has been proven elsewhere, and it seems to be working here. So we're here to help you. So a little bit about my background. I started a number of companies, mainly in the high-tech realm, but not exclusively. And from idea to sale. I'm also an educator, so I teach both at Cornell and Ithaca College. And at Cornell, I teach in the graduate business school and the graduate engineering school. And then at Ithaca College, we focus really on practical entrepreneurship. So we've had a nice track record of launching 6 companies per year out of Ithaca. But I also advise folks. So I have an engineering background and an MBA, and for the better part of the past 15 years, my job title has been CEO. So when I talk about the stories and examples, I do it experientially. So this is what we define as the Southern Tier. I put these stars here because these are some hot spots, and one of the things that Judy mentioned, which I think is very exciting, is people are learning about what's going on here in Montour Falls and saying, hey, we'd like to replicate that, or we'd like to come to it. We're starting to see folks come from different areas. And we see that as a positive. This is an all ships rise situation. So as people get to identify this area as an entrepreneurial hub, that's a good thing. Men's Journal just recognized our region as one of the nicest places in the country to live, and the entrepreneurial ecosystem was one of them. So that's a great opportunity. So we're covering this territory, and we're finding some entrepreneurs and helping some entrepreneurs. And I'm going to talk about 2 specific programs that are going on. These are both housed out of the incubator, so we have various incubators in the region. Both of these are based out of the incubator in Ithaca, but they're open to people throughout the region. So the first one I want to talk about is the Hardware Accelerator. This is a 12-week summer program, extremely intensive. So if you have a concept or the initial nugget of an idea for a hardware, and so hardware in this case typically involves you've got a physical product that probably has electronics in it. Doesn't necessarily have to, but those those are the models of when we think about hardware, that's what we're looking at. So you may have heard terms like Internet of Things. A lot of my devices connected to a phone. We did the first version of this last summer. We had 12 teams go through it. I won't go through each one of them, but there's everything from a horse water monitoring system as an early indicator of horse health to a fold-out stage you can use for karaoke or for your band. An automated brewing system, a system to help people count their workouts at the gym. So some really interesting stuff. I want to point this one out, the deadline to apply is Friday. So if you're interested, here's the URL. I'm happy to, I've got some cards with this information on as well, so I can pass this out. So the deadline applies Friday, but it's a 12-week program. It does come with some funding, and it's a lot of fun. And if you want to mess with 3D printers or circuit boards or laser cutters or all that fun stuff, the lab at Rev has over $100,000 of equipment designed for rapid prototyping. And many of the lessons that I talk about here tonight will be expanded as part of that program. So it's not just make things, but make things customers want. The other is a program that will be starting a little later in the summer. This is a year-long program. It's called Passenger to Pilot. It's focused on women in entrepreneurship. So in our first year of doing this, we had a cohort of 16 women go through or start in the program. And now that we're coming near the end of that first year, we're hearing some really great numbers. Multiple of these entrepreneurs have doubled their revenue, tripled the size of their staff. I was having a conversation with one of the CEOs right before coming here, and her problem, this is a good problem to have, is I can't fit all this stuff in my schedule. So it's what we call a high-class problem. She has more customer demand for what she's doing than she has time to do it. Of course, I always say, well, that's a great time to raise your price. So these are high-class problems. So I think the deadline for this is a little later in the year, but not too far out. So I think it's middle of May. I can find out for sure, but it's definitely not Friday. If you're interested in this one also, it's a year-long program. It'll only meet once a week, where the hardware accelerator is almost like a 12-week everyday type of thing. So slightly different flavors of. And this program has been nationally recognized as being truly unique and effective. Okay, so that is our quick sales pitch. So let me go into what I want to talk about tonight. And I should tell you folks, for the people who are here for the first time, the way we've created these talks is from the feedback in the audience. And so I'm doing customer tactics because the last time we did one of these, that's what the audience said they wanted to learn about. So that's how we're going to, one of the things I'll close with is I'm going to ask you, what do you want to talk about next time? So data-driven customer development, what does that mean? Well, it's getting folks from red flag statements to data-driven statements. So one of the things that makes us a little nervous when we talk to entrepreneurs is when we say, what's your business? And they say, well, what I want to do is, or what I think is. These are these red flag statements, because oftentimes it means they don't have data. And where we want to get to is what my customer wants and what the data shows. So it's what problem am I solving for my customer, and how would I get it? And there's a silly cartoon here. I took a number of these cartoons from a book and a website called Talking to Humans. It says, if I were a teenage girl, if I were our teenage girl target, I would love our new product. And the next guy goes, have you actually talked to me to make sure? And the third fellow says, what? And leave this room? So unfortunately, this happens a lot. People develop products for for somebody who's not themselves and make broad assumptions. And that leads to some real problems. So let's talk about how you can avoid that. How do we go out and talk to our customers before we start building something? So customer discovery. This cartoon says, I've been told I need to get candid, unbiased feedback for my startup idea. And then the people on the other couch say, we love this idea and we're very proud of you, son. So that's certainly one of those pitfalls, is be careful who you talk to about your idea. One of the first things we say is don't talk to your friends, family, people who know you, because they're actually going to they think they're doing you a favor, they're doing you a disservice, because they're going to tell you what they think you want to hear, not really the truth. All right, so here are some first tactics in customer discovery. The first is figure out what you're going to say. So where we want you to start with is actually one-on-one conversations. We'll get to surveys and focus groups and all that kind of stuff. We really like one-on-one conversations. This is where you get people talking, and we'll talk about some tactics around that. But it's figure out what we're going to talk about beforehand. It seems a little silly, but dry runs. Actually, if you're in a business with some partners, interview each other as if one of you is a potential customer. And that, believe it or not, actually helps work out the kinks on how this can work. And then you have to get outside. We say get out of the building. Don't be shy. Reach out to folks and interview them. And start looking for power. And then last thing, come back to when we return to the building, is report back what you learn and keep track of it. So we'll go into the details of each one of these. I guess I'll read this whole thing. Asking open-ended questions. Be completely honest and tell me what you think of a product that we've slaved over nights and weekends without sleep or salary because we think it's such a cool idea. So we see this a lot. People are going out doing interviewing, but they're actually doing push marketing, push selling. And so it's not open-ended questions. So these are open-ended questions. And this is not an exhaustive list. We could probably go around the room and come up with dozens of these. When I do this in academic setting, we do that. Open-ended question is any question where the answer is not yes or no. And so the goal here is to get people talking about this problem that they may have and understanding how big a problem it is. Are they willing to pay for it? Like, does it bother them? And some of these questions, I'm not being too dramatic, but some of the best answers I get are, what's dangerous at your workplace? What are you afraid of? What keeps you up at night? There's this, I also give this example of, what do you do? This is a great way to promote yourself at your job. What do you do that you hate doing? So the example, for whatever reason, I just hate taking the trash out on Sunday night. I don't know if that's a business, but I think if somebody just came to the side of my house and took my trash away, I'd be really happy. I'd pay for that. What do you hate doing? This is one of those things. I'll tell you a really quick story. Some of the folks may know this. We've got some new folks in the room. There was a group of Clarkson students who went to the head of the ice hockey rink at Clarkson University and said to the guy running the rink, he's like, what's something that really just bugs you? What is your job really bugs you? And he goes, you know what bugs me is in my concession stand, I'm either overstaffed or understaffed. So when hockey's going on, I got a bunch of people standing around doing nothing. When there's intermission, I've got a concession stand where there's huge lines and everybody's running around like crazy. And both of those drive me nuts. I hate being understaffed because then my customers are unhappy. I hate being overstaffed because I'm paying people to do nothing. It's like, help me, he's like, it doesn't cost me a lot of money, my Zamboni is 3 times the expense of those things, but help me solve that problem because it just drives me nuts. So that was their version of taking the trash on a Sunday night. So what these students did is they made an app. They made an app for your iPhone that you could pre-order your popcorn and nachos and stuff from your seat. So while you're sitting in your seat and hockey's going on and maybe there's a break, you look down your phone, you pre-order whatever your stuff is, you prepay for it, and it gives you a number on your phone. And then at the intermission, you walk out to the concession stand, they've got a bag, you hold up your phone, they hand you a bag, you're on your way. Well, what this did for the guy running the hockey stadium, he said he now had all these people in the concession stand while hockey was going on, they're filling bags, they're numbering bags, and then when the people come out, they're no longer waiting in line. They just walk up, get their bag, on their way. Already paid for, everything. And so one of the nice things that happened here is one, he had his staffing evened out. He's actually able to lower his staffing because he could just keep them working evenly the whole time, and his sales went up dramatically. And the audience loved it. I mean, the people in the stadium loved it. They're like, we hate like waiting in line. We love hot pretzels. So we were able to put those two together. That company sold. They sold that company 18 months after they graduated. So a good little business. But it started with a very simple open-ended question, which is, what just drives you nuts? And this is a good place to find out what customer needs are. So this is a book I mentioned called Talking to Humans. I'm not going to read all of these. But some of the key things that he talks about here is going in prepared, taking notes, and this fifth one here is key. It says getting stories on past behavior. So one of the things that we want to ask is, would you buy this if? Well, it turns out people are really bad at forward-looking predictors. I mean, the iPhone is a great example. Steve Jobs did not go around going, hey, anybody want a glass rectangle? Right? He said, what problems do you have and how are you solving it now? So folks are good at is understanding past behavior. What problem do you have now? How do you solve it now? How big a problem is it for you? How much do you spend on that problem now? So when you go out and talk to people about their problems, they start describing to you, avoid the urge to give a what-if scenario. The more ask them how they do things now, and then you can determine a better way. So that's a cautionary tale about get stories in the past. And the next slide here is a continuation of this, and I'm happy to share these slides. But number 7 is important in that if you're having one of these conversations with a potential customer and they're doing the bulk of the talking, you're doing a good job. So you get them talking, get them rolling on about why they hate the concession stand lines and why they hate the overstaffing. Get them rolling, and you're listening, you're taking notes. That'll be key. And then last one here, look for patterns. So one of the things we talk about is we want you to talk to more than one potential customer. So I told you the Clarkson case, but particularly folks who are selling to consumers, be careful of the data point of one. And so if anybody here took statistics, there's a term in statistics called statistically significant. And that means I have enough data for a trend to start to emerge. And I won't turn this into a statistics class, but the key number is 25. So there's your number. If you're wondering how many interviews should I have, the answer is 25. But what you're going to do is right around, as you get up to 25, you're going to start to see patterns. And actually what you're going to also see is your questions are going to change, and your knowledge from those is going to change. So you look for patterns. We call this the mosaic theory, which is don't always take one data point and don't weigh it, but look at them all. And one of the key things, and I'll talk about it goes in this next one, is tracking. So we want you to keep track of these conversations. And this will do a couple things for you. One is hopefully you've got so many conversations going on, and it's you, your co-founders, your business partners, whoever they may be, that you've got to have some form to track. Like, what did you learn in your conversations? What did you learn in yours? So you come in with a hypothesis. What did I think? And then how did I test that hypothesis? And then what was my result? And then what do I do from there? And hopefully you're starting to create a list of these. And you're going to learn from them. That's where we talk about the mosaic theory. You're going to step back and start to see these patterns emerge. And if you were a student in one of my classes, I would say to you, well, here's how many interviews you have to get these grades. So it's a lot. Students at the academic level may get to the end of the semester where they've done 100 interviews. And they've been keeping track of all of these interviews on a big spreadsheet with all their hypothesis, experiment, results, and action. And so the other reason you want to do this is you want to avoid the error of recency. And so error of recency is overweighing information you've heard more recently. That's key. Excuse me. I will also caution you against overweighing people who aren't necessarily your customer, but who you want to impress. And that would typically be folks that you're trying to get investment money from. So one of the mistakes I see entrepreneurs doing is they will go and talk to an investor, a banker, a venture capitalist, and those folks will give you advice on their business, and you may overweigh it, not realizing they might not be your customer. So the example of the young girls there, I'll tell you about a company called Zulily. You guys, who knows Zulily? All right, how many men in the room know Zulily? Okay, so the founders of Zulily, there's some former executives from Amazon, and Zulily is a company that, I know the head of marketing there, they focus on selling, they're a deal-of-the-day site, so very deeply discounted, short-run products targeted for young women with young children. That is their niche. Well, when they went out and started talking to investors, well, quite frankly, most of the venture capital investors looked like me, they're middle-aged white guys. And so they went and talked to these venture capital investors and said, who wants this? Well, you're going to discount a Vitamix and some pink sneakers? That doesn't make any sense. That's not a business, right? Because they were and so if they had listened to those folks, they would have been in error because those weren't their customers. They were their investors, their potential investors, but they weren't their customers. And Zulily has done very well. They went IPO. It's an insane number, but it's because they were so focused on listening to the needs and wants of their customer, which in this case was young women with young children. And Wall Street eventually caught up because they said, I don't understand what this business is, but every day I come home, I'm stepping over a Zulily box. So there must be something going on here. That's literally a quote I've heard from a banker. Okay, So listen to your customers. This is an example from a book. We teach the Steve Blank model.